Hi everybody, I'm Kate Fogger, this is Julie Hurt and we are Making Light, and as you will see we have a very special guest, as promised I might add, because we did mention it. We have with us today Anna Marie Ellison, who is a colleague and friend. Hope I'm not being too presumptuous, Anna Marie, by saying that. So Anna Marie is also a soul level intuitive coach, a soul level, I'm losing it all, you see, I'm so starstruck. Soul level and animal communicator. Anna Marie is also an energy healer, and she does what we want to talk most about today, which is her equine experiential learning.
It's a mouthful.
Sorry, it is a mouthful, but it'll get you noticed. And since Julie has recently experientialized it,
I love that. Well done, Kate.
Okay, we can cut that bit out. Julie, would you want to start with the interview then?
Yeah. So welcome, Anna Marie. We're so excited that you could be here with us today. Thank you. So I also just want to take a note. I don't know if anybody could hear, but Lucas decided to really get comfy underneath my desk there for a little bit. So he's making a lot of noise. So he's settling in for the conversation. So y'all grab your cup of tea. All right, so yeah, a couple weeks ago, another colleague friend of ours months ago, she called and said, hey, let's go do Anna Marie's horse. She called it horse thing. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I said it before I even thought about it, because had I thought about it, I would have said no. That's usually what happens, is sounds really good. No. But I was like, yes. And then I even offered to drive my RV, which is a whole other thing. So yeah, so we spent 2.5 days, 2 days, full days with Anna Marie on her farm in Illinois. And I'm actually terrified of horses, was terrified of horses. I feel much more confident now. She's got 3 gorgeous horses. Their souls are fabulous. And she walks, so Anna Marie walks you through a number of meditations, and you work with the herd to be one of the herd. And then as you do that, then they help showcase things that you're working on. And this group knows that I've been working on Not Worthy for quite some time, and that came up huge while we were there. And the fear of horses, I was so afraid, I couldn't get Nikki, and I'll let her talk about her horses, but I couldn't get Nikki. I couldn't ask Nikki to move a certain direction. And so that's kind of started everything. And then I ended up the session, that particular one, at Nikki's feet, and she had no halter on, no rope on, and I just was sitting right at her feet, which is what really scares me. So, and
there's a photo of you doing that, isn't there? I saw that photo.
Yeah, I was so amazed. I miss them. I miss them. I'm very much looking forward to coming back. But yeah, but Anna Marie, tell us about, our experience was fantastic. So tell us a little bit about how you got into it, all the things.
So how I got into this, 5 years ago, my husband passed away. Prior to that, he was a racehorse trainer. So my life with him for the longest time was helping him race the horses, training, doing therapy with the horses, energy healing with the horses, to help them recover from races and recover from trauma and injuries and stuff like that. So that's what I was doing just prior to him passing. He passed in 2017. And so basically I took a year off. I sold the business. I rehomed. We had 20 horses. I rehomed all the horses. I basically was just trying to survive for a solid year, basically. And in that time, the only thing that I really did was energy healing with horses. I did a little body work with horses. So some of the other horsemen that I knew from racing, I would be working on their horses and stuff. And every time I worked on their horses, I would come out of the session feeling better than when I went in. And about 6 months after Jim passed, one of our horses, this guy right there, Hercules, that's one of his win photos. His previous owner called me and said, hey, if you want him, he's yours. And I was like, he was always our heart horse. This was a gift Jim brought to me at our wedding. So we got married in 2016 after being together like 18 years, which was, crazy in itself. But so Hercules was always like a heart horse. So when I got this message, like, if you want him as yours, I was like, immediately, yes. And then part of me started freaking out, like, what business do I have having a horse? Like, I am not even getting out of bed barely, like I can't barely take care of myself. I have nowhere to put him. I don't know how to take care of a horse on my own. Like, all this stuff was coming up about my negative beliefs of, I can't do this. There's no way I could do this. But something told me to say yes. And I did. And I literally feel like he saved my life, because every day I would go to the barn and I would spend 2, 3, 4 hours with him, just either sitting in his stall, just crying, and him holding space for me, or we'd go out to the pasture and I would just, sit out there and read a book with him, or he would, just come over and just stay with me. He would just be with me. Just being in his energy field was enough for me to feel like, okay, I can do this again tomorrow. And so we continued on like this, and I just kept doing energy healing, and he kept showing me that he was actually healing me more than I was working on him. And same with the other horses that I was working on. Everything that I was doing for them, they were basically mirroring it back to me tenfold. And so I was slowly healing energetically from my grief based on being with the horses, and particularly Hercules. Like, he would just hold that space for me and just let me cry. And then when he was like, okay, enough crying, let's move the energy. And then he'd do something silly, like he'd steal my hat, or he'd take my book and he'd throw it, and he would just do crazy stuff to make me move the energy, start to laugh or do something different. So over time, he started to teach me like ways that he was healing with me, which now all of my horses have started to do that with me with my other clients. And they have taught me, like, okay, this worked for you. Now let's do this with other people. Right. So eventually Nikki was at the barn where Hercules was stalled at that time. And I started taking care of her. And eventually she came with me, and I moved. I bought a farm out in Chaminade, and again, had no business doing all of this on my own, but I was like, all right, I need to do this. Like, I was being called to do this work. I took a retreat with Danielle, the Horse and Soul retreat, 3 years ago now, and 3 years ago this month, actually. And I came back from that. I remember being in the taxi on the way back to the airport and just having this like massive download of, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, for the first time in my life, I felt like I knew what my life's purpose was. And I just remember just like this huge expansion opening of like, oh my gosh, this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing with people. And I came home from there, and I did some research on this equine coaching thing. Like, what is this? I need to know more about that. And eventually I took a year-long certification course so I could learn more methods and how to do this properly. And, because people come with deep trauma, abuse, grief, divorce, job changes, relationship issues, so many different things that people are dealing with, that as a coach, I have to be prepared to know how to hold the space for those people when some very, very serious stuff comes up. And so having that training of knowing like how, and I've done some training specifically for trauma, and things like that, but knowing how to offer the assistance with the horses for anybody who's having really serious emotional stuff come up, that is major, because it does happen. Horses have this way of just being with them. They're like, whoop, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that was going to come up. Where did that come from? Right. So some really magical stuff happens just by being with them. And so the horses have taught me. I got Al back. Al was also one of our race horses. He was the first horse I ever did energy healing with. And he's taught me so much. Even back then, he taught me so much about like, hey, yeah, we're not going to do it your way. We're going to do it my way. So over time, all three of them have showed me like, okay, that's great that you know this, but what if we do it this way? And so even when Julie came out, it was like, okay, I have all this stuff kind of planned. And then the horse is like, that's awesome, but yeah, we're going to do this instead, which over time has come to be like, the more I just let go and let them lead it, they just know intuitively what that person needs. They just know. I mean, I didn't know Julie was working on this stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, I know Julie, but I didn't know this stuff that was going to come up for her, but the horses knew, and they knew exactly which horse was the horse that was going to step up and do the work with her, which is, to me, it's like, okay, that thing for me of, I just have to let go of the control all the time, because that's one of the things I work on. Like, for me to feel safe, I need to be in control of everything. So I will spend a week ahead of time planning, and then I have a 1-day retreat, and then I'm exhausted and I can't function for 3 more days afterwards because I spent the whole week prior over prepping and stressing myself out, you know. So the horses are another way of them teaching me as well, in this process of, okay, just let go and let your intuitive self and let us guide you through this. And it always ends up with the most beautiful sessions that are beyond what I even think is possible.
Yeah. And that's so fun. That's so, it just, oh my gosh, the whole thing's I want to talk about the heart in a moment. The thing with the control. Yeah. Cause you had planned for Monica and I to be in an area with the 2 male horses, which are, for me, big animals. And particularly Hercules,
Bigger than a moose.
as big as a moose. If big moose can probably be bigger, but these Hercules in particular, yeah, that's past my, I can handle this threshold. Even Nikki to a degree, but yeah. Anyway, but so she was going to work with Al and Hercules and Monica and me, and then at the last minute they were like, and she was going to keep Nikki in the barn, and at the last minute, right? Like they just went, nope, other way, and it flipped, and that's how I got to work with Nikki. So, which was so cool. And the other thing that happened in that session when I was working with Nikki, the way my heart felt, and you had talked about how when you were teaching us like horse information or horse etiquette and whatever, you talked about their heart, and then you reminded us in that moment. Can you tell everybody about that aspect? Because that still sticks with me.
Yeah. So the electromagnetic field of a horse's heart is so much bigger than ours. And right off the top of my head, I want to say it's like 50 times bigger. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, which I should know, and I do know, but whatever. It's so much bigger than ours that it amplifies the heart space, right? Horses have a bigger heart and a smaller brain. We have a bigger brain and a smaller heart, right? So we are coming from this cognitive functioning all the time, where they're coming from this natural reptilian part of their body, their brain, right? And in their heart space, right? They're feeling everything, everything's information. But all you have to do is be within 12 feet of a horse, and they start to match your heart rhythm actually starts to sync with their heart rhythm. So automatically, just by being within like 12 feet of them, your body naturally comes to this very relaxed, calm state, because that's where they are, right? You just start to sync with them, and you feel the energy like get more grounded, get a little heavier, get more solid, right? And just all like, you just feel the expansion, because it's this beautiful, amazing, magical space that they've created just by being who they are, because they're not pretending to be something they're not. They're not showing up with any sort of judgment, as we know from any of our animals. You know, you ladies know from solo animal communication, our animals never have judgment. It's always 100% unconditional love. They never show up and pretend, hey, everything's great, when they're really not feeling great. You know, they're showing up authentically 100% of the time, and they're asking us to do the same. And so by bringing you into that heart space with them, it creates this beautiful container for that healing to happen, where it's almost like everything else in the world just kind of falls away, and you're just in like this beautiful space, like a giant tube of divine light. I feel like that's when I'm in that space with them, that's what it feels like to me, where you're just there, and it's just you and that horse. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing else, right? And your heart's there, and it's expanding and opening, and you don't even realize it's happening, but because you're syncing with the horse, and they're bringing you in and just kind of like drawing you into that energy, and their energetic field, they just start moving the energy automatically, right? They're helping you start, okay, that's good. So, and then they start licking and chewing, or, you know, drooling sometimes, or, you know, whatever it is that they're just helping you move the energy so that whatever's happening in there that needs to move around or get rid of, they're helping you do that just by being in their presence, just by showing up and being you. That's it.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Oh, can I just make one comment before you do, Kate? Physically, I just want to say, when that happened, that connection, I have a concern around cardiology health because of, whatever. And so and I have different feelings, but in that moment, I could feel like everything release. There's a physicality to it too. And that's what I just wanted to comment on. Because for the first time, it felt like I could breathe and everything. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I've had clients come who have had anxiety their entire life. And where do most of us hold it in our chest or our solar plexus, right?
Mhm.
She held it in her chest. She's had it as far as she can remember, as long back as she can remember. And one healing session with the horses, one day she came for a group retreat. And by the end of it, she's like, I've not experienced this level of peace in as long as I can remember. She's like, and weeks later, the last time I talked to her, she was saying like, that never came back. Whatever happened, I was holding there. It broke up and it was gone. And I haven't had it since. And so it's really amazing the way that happens, where it's just like the energy of whatever we were holding on to here. And so many of us have been through things that we put this protective shell in our hearts, right? We create this hardness of, I can't even get to your heart space because you're in such a protective mode. And just being with the horses somehow makes that safe. Even for you, like Hercules is probably clear 1,300 pounds, right? To be in that space and feel safe is, somebody from the outside would look at that and be like, yeah, I don't think so. But there's something that happens in that space where it's just like, you start to crack that shell a little bit and you actually start to let go of whatever that armor is that you're holding on to of your heart space, and you just let them in. And it's magic.
Yeah.
So many things going ding, 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 ding in my head. I'll try and keep it coherent. The first one, so there's an Abraham Hicks discussion where she talks about how a lot of people, feel for whales. That they bring this sort of awe. It's like they also mention newborn babies. Obviously some of us have some resistance to that, but whales, rainbows, things like that. And one of the reasons she said with whales in particular is because of their mass, because of the size of them. The field of their love is so great that you can't help but react to it. So that was all going through my head when you're talking about the horse's heart. And also this was actually we did body code, they had this whole discussion about how the heart works, and it ties in with a sort of physical explanation, if you like, for law of attraction. That is, there's actually like a donut shape around every heart, and it's energy or love going out, and then it comes back in, and it comes back in amplified by this donut shape. And that was also this picture I saw of the horse, because if it's got such a large heart and that you're getting sucked into that, it's almost a magnetic field that sort of goes out and then comes back amplified. So that's just incredible. But so I realize there's lots of stuff with what happened with Julie, but I just wanted to touch on how you're afraid of animals. You see, I can't imagine being afraid of a horse. I just think I just know, I mean, from my own experience with horses, he was a little shit, to be honest, but he was my little shit. And he used to like toss me off at every jump. He was actually very good at jumping, but he knew he'd had so many owners because he was such a little shit that he was very pretty. And, little girls would get their little pony and then he wouldn't behave in a show. So he'd be moved on to somebody else. And he'd be, oh, such a pretty little pony, little shit, move on to somebody else. And I just loved him with all my heart. But as soon as you put him in a show ring, he was like, I know you get 3 chances and then we go home. So he would just literally just toss me off. But I also know that he wouldn't, like I've seen horses with that, you'll have seen this, Anna Marie, where they fall and they're really, really, really careful and they will do anything within their power not to fall on you. I mean, Arthur did, because he was a little bit, actually he wasn't stupid at all, but he was so good for me. But he did fall on me once, but there were so many times that he could have like obliterated me. But you'll see horses actually holding up their foot going, oh my god, where can I put it down? There's a person underneath me. So like I have no but I guess my question was, Julie overcomes this big fear of horses along with everything else that was happening. But if someone like me who's not afraid of horses, am I going to experience the same sort of release of working with animals? And when can I come, and why don't you live in Britain?
Number one, you can come and stay anytime as long as you want. I would transport my horses to you, but that seems a little cumbersome. So yes, I have worked with a lot of people who have a lot of horse experience, who grew up with horses, who ride horses all the time, right? Who have good relationships with horses. And I just want to add a side note. Probably you already know this, that your horse had lessons he was working on.
Oh yeah. I haven't. It's interesting that I haven't gone there yet, because this was. It's almost like I'm working back to my adult trauma, and then we'll get to my childhood trauma.
But in reality, getting to the childhood trauma mostly clears the adult traumas in a lot of situations. At least that's the experience that I've had with the horses with people, but I digress. So the question was, what?
Well, if I'm not afraid of horses, what sort of breakthroughs can I expect? Because I appreciate that's a big thing, to overcome a fear and feel different.
Yeah. So people that are comfortable with horses, there's not that barrier to get through. So there's other stuff that can automatically starts coming up, so some people it's a relationship issue, right? The patterns that they're repeating in relationships where they're just not able to, they keep repeating, I have the same marriage, or I keep finding the same boyfriend or girlfriend. How do I break through that? And the horse is going to either mirror that energy for you, or they're going to model something for you on how you should be doing it, right? So a lot of what happens is mirroring of the energy. So if you come in and you're like, I've worked with horses my whole life, it's not a big deal, I understand them, I get it. But a lot of people don't actually get the energetic part of horses, and how just, being, not doing anything itself. Like, what happens when you just stand and realize, I don't have to do anything here. We're all doers, right? As humans, we're very focused here. We want to be moving. We have a goal. We want to do stuff. And they don't know how to just stand and be present, right? So learning how to just be with a horse is easier to just be present with a horse than it is to be present with another human. Right. So we learn a lot about ourselves within a relationship based on, how can I be with this horse? If I can't just stand and be present with this horse and just be with them without doing anything, without saying anything, without trying, how does that reflect what's going on in my relationships? If I am the one who always has to be in charge and know what's going on, and I need to do something all the time, it's a very masculine energy that you're running in a relationship, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's also the balance of that receiving end, learning how to receive and just be. And you can't receive if you can't even see where you're constantly giving. But when you get in that space of just being, you open up to just receiving what the horse wants to share with you.
I saw that in your blog, Julie. You wrote about that.
Because that was also the receiving thing. And maybe because of, being a woman and having to feeling like I constantly have to give to prove my worth, to sit. And I remember it very clearly when Anna Marie said, you are here to receive. Like, she won't even let you cook. She won't let you get your cup of coffee. She won't let
you. I'm coming.
Oh, yeah. It's like, not all, like, the horses are totally taking care of you. So is Anna Marie. So she puts you in this space of, you have to receive, and to even experience it and get a taste of it is huge. And then and I'll say too, as Anna Marie keeps talking, I'm like, oh, like they're still all working with me, because there's been two things, and now of course I don't remember what they were, but I was like, oh, there that is again, or oh, okay, up another. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
It's interesting because, like, to me that sounds like a dream scenario, to have somebody waiting on me hand and foot. I think the reality is really hard. for people certainly like me, I know that like Julie, to let people do that, you know, I get really awkward and embarrassed. I'm not used to having people do things for me.
It's a real problem for people who come to work with me. It's across the board. I would say like 90% of the people that come here are very uncomfortable when I say, no, it's okay, I got it. This is about you receiving. Like, do you need anything? Here, let me get your fork for you, or here's your cup of coffee. You know, like this, the experience is not just the horses, right? If you're coming for a day group retreat, or you're coming for a weekend private retreat, whatever it is, it's the entire experience of being within the area of the horses. I mean, even just sitting out on the deck in the morning and having, when it's nice enough out, to, you know, have your coffee and your breakfast and just watching the horses in the field. There's something about that changes how you digest your food, right? It changes how, like, I don't even want to sit and talk with you over coffee, no offense, but I just want to watch the horses, and I just want to feel their energy and feel how it feels in my body when they get excited and start running for, you know, we're like, what's going on? Why are they, you know, you feel into it, and it's the entire experience. It's not just that moment you're one-on-one with a horse. It's all of it, because it's all part of us learning how to be present in life, right? Receiving is a very difficult thing, even as Julie said, like we know that we have to prove ourselves. Like we have this thing in us that says, okay, we have to keep proving how good we are and that we can do this and blah, blah, blah. But there's so much more value in seeing the balance of that. Okay, we are so good at telling the universe, you know, hey, this is what I want. But then we get to this point of like, yeah, I want this, but then I'm not actually ready to receive it. Like, no, we keep telling the universe so many ways, like, no, I don't want to receive. No, I don't want to receive. So it's really important to me that when people come out, that's one of the big things that comes up all the time, of learning to receive. If you learn to receive, you open up your heart space even bigger to other things that are possible that you didn't know were possible because you weren't open to receiving them. And if you can receive a cup of coffee, you get with a horse, and all of a sudden you could receive some level of energy healing that you didn't realize you could, because you cracked that open over breakfast and you didn't even realize it.
I know definitely that's sort of, I go through all this with the law of attraction, and you know, it's like, I don't understand it, I'm doing all the right things, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing the other, and every time. And then there's Nick Bro, who he puts quite, not a scientific, but quite a business approach to law of attraction, which sometimes is what I need to get out of my I don't even know what's going. But it's sort of like, and every time I do it and I must test through the checklist, it's like, I am asking, I do want this, I'm clear about what I want, I do imagine it and that, and it's always not letting it in. It's like it's all just sitting there going, well, for fuck's sake, Kate, we're ready. And I'm sitting there going, where is it? Just don't know how to do it. Julie, I have a gazillion questions, so you're going to need to interrupt now.
No, I'd say you go, because yeah, I'll salt and pepper it. You go.
Okay, so I'm sort of thinking on my feet or my ass, as it were, as we do this. But I'm thinking like, well, if horses are like this, how come so many of us work with horses and don't feel this benefit? So I do appreciate, I probably was, and I was younger, and I didn't have the same, and I would have. He probably, as you said, saved my life, because looking back, I can see I had a very, very difficult and miserable childhood, and that horse makes me want to cry just even thinking about him. He was just everything to me. But I have been back. Gary, my husband, was going on, it wasn't a dude ranch, he was insist it was a proper ranch. To actually, when he spent some time in the States this year, and he wanted to ride. So there's actually a riding stable at the bottom of the road, and I said, well, look, I'll come with you, and at least you can get on a horse and see if that's something you want to do. And he just loved it. I mean, it was hard for me, because if you're used to having your own horse and then you're really sore and stiff and old, and suddenly you can't get onto a horse, you know, I used to be a show jumper and now I can barely walk. And being that child again, and being told what to do and being instructed like you're an idiot. So it was a learning experience for me, and I enjoyed it, but it's not like having your own horse at all. You know, I'm just walking around the ring, and I obviously all that not good enough on me. It's like I should be able to do this, and I haven't done it for 30 years, but why can't I do it? I'm crap at this. But what I'm saying is I didn't feel that sort of benefit. So I'm assuming that horses are giving that out all the time, and it's whether or not you as an individual can open your mind and your heart to what is happening to feel that benefit. So I'm sure they're giving a benefit anyway, but do all horses do this, Anna Marie, or is it a combination of your expertise with those horses that make it special?
I think it's a combination, but horses, part of them as beings is they're just fully present all of the time, right? And part of my program is learning to be more horse-like, learning to just be, right? So their innate beings they're just like, okay, everything is information. Everything I receive and see, hear, feel, know, all the vibrations, all of that is information. So the second you step in with a horse, they're reading your energy. They're smelling your chemical makeup of what's going on here with this person. Are they ready for this work? Are they just here with their own agenda? What are we doing together, right? So they know if you're stepping, my horses have done this enough that you show up before you even show up, as Julie might have experienced, stuff starts happening the second you commit to your session. So if you commit in May, you commit to your session's not until September, they are starting to work with you energetically from May until you show up at the door. So they know you're ready for the work, right? They know, okay, even if you're having such a difficult time and you're in resistance to where you're going to go, just setting the intention that, okay, I'm open to seeing where this goes, help me do that. Boom, that's all it takes. But all horses aren't willing to do that. All horses aren't in that space where they're coming to show up to do that particular work, because they know their job is something else. They know their job is running or jumping or hunting. I don't know why I said running, hunting or whatever it is, that, barrel racing. They know they have a specific job. My horses know this is their specific job. They have learned over time. They have taught me what their job is, right? And
I was going to say, I think they knew. It's only you that came to the realization. They already knew that was their job.
I believe 100% that my horses and I have soul contracts, that my husband passing and them coming back to me, that none of this is coincidence. All of this is pre-planned, that my husband leaving when he did was our contract for me to be able to do my life's purpose. Right. So, and then for him to send Hercules back to me the way that he did. Hercules came back to me exactly 1 year to the date of Jim's diagnosis. That's when I got the phone call that said, if you want him, he's yours. No coincidence in that, right? So, and then Al coming back to me right when I moved into this house, and him being the first horse that I ever did energy healing with, like no coincidences in that. They were just like, oh, okay, we're just holding space over here until you're ready for this work. And then when I was ready to start doing the work, they showed up. And it's the same way with people. When they're ready to do the work, they will show up, and the horses will show up tenfold to hold them in that space. They know how to do the work.
I want to do it so much.
And this work, I could come to you, Kate, and we could go to a farm and we could find horses and we could do this work with those horses, right? It's just a matter of asking the horses permission. Are you ready? Do you want to do this work with us? Can you do this work with us?
There are 4, might be 3 now. No, there are 4. They're all, for the general population, white, but we both know they're grey horses at the top of the field. I mean, it's quite a hike. And one of them I got to know quite well because he used to be just in a field next to me, but they're sort of up. So I'm on a sheep farm. But we went up there, and Gary and I actually went up to say them, and I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And they honestly, totally, completely ignored us. I was gutted because normally horses will come over, but I guess they're pretty wild now. And as soon as it was obvious we didn't have treats, they were just, they didn't even look over at us. And I was really gutted.
Well, they have their own agenda too, right? Their life is about, especially when they're in a more wild kind of situation, their life is about survival. Everything is about survival, right? Even domestically, it's about survival, right? What's the energy of this situation that makes me want to be part of it? Is it safe to be in this situation? Do I have to flee over here so that it feels safe to me, right? And if you show up with an energy that isn't in alignment, right? If what you are putting out here doesn't match what you're feeling inside, they don't want any part of that. It's the same way you walk into a room and somebody's like, oh, everything's great, and I'm the most amazing person on the inside. They're so like torn and insecure, and horses read that. And they're like, yeah, until you show up and be authentically who you are, or at least admit that you don't know what to do here. Something is off and I don't know how to fix it. Help me. Then they're like, okay, we can work with that.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that. I mean, I'd like to think I didn't go up there with hugely conflicting energy, but I don't know.
Well, that happened. That actual thing happened. I won't tell much of Monica's story, but this part we had of this whole conversation about the last day. Monica was all excited to get back to the horses, but she hadn't come into her body yet. She hadn't realized what all she was feeling. So she started to move into the pasture, and Hercules came right at her and went like, you're not coming in here because you haven't done your thing, the whole centering thing or whatever yet. And she started laughing. She goes, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it. He just told me to back up, or, and not that you have to be an animal communicator to do it, but she understood what his behavior was. And how she just like, oh, that's right. Okay. And then she was able to center herself and she walked in, everything was fine. But it was, yeah, it's interesting. It's immediate. The feedback is immediate.
Yeah, everything is information, right? So the horses are constantly giving you feedback. They're constantly giving you information. They're taking in information and responding based on that. I had a client who came out early this year and had a session, and I just kept telling her, everything's information. Anything they're showing you is information. They're giving you feedback about what's going on with you internally, emotionally, all of that. And she had just the most profound experience of, the weekend that she had in that private retreat. And then, I take pictures as the day goes on so that people have moments to come back to and look at that and say, oh, I remember what happened there. And just as reminders of like, how far they came in that weekend or day or whatever it was. Well, she had such a profound experience that she was looking through photos over the next couple of weeks and noticed that a lot of the photos, the horses kept coming to her left side. And she remembered, everything's information, right? And she ended up finding her breast cancer because of that. Wow. So the horses showed that to her, even though we didn't recognize what was happening at the moment. But they could smell that. They could sense that chemicalness coming from her. They knew something was different there. And so their energy kept being drawn there and showed her, hey, there's something here to look at. This is information. And she admitted, like, I haven't done a mammogram in like 11 years. She did a self-exam after that and she found lumps and ended up, found out she had cancer and had surgeries and chemo and all of that stuff since then, and is still going through that process. But, she is just so eternally grateful that the horses helped her find that, so the amount of, and I get so emotional thinking about it, because not only have they helped me through my process of grieving and healing through that and opening my heart and just going deeper than I thought I could do. And now being able to share that with other people so that they have these life-changing experiences and heal in ways that they never thought were possible for them. Never, I didn't know it could go to some of these places that it goes to with the horses. And they surprise me every single time. And I don't know why they surprise me every time, because I know how amazing they are. But every time I do, a retreat, the people leave or the person leaves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, how is this possible that you keep stepping it up? Like every time you show up 100% and you give so much. And then like these people come and they just have these amazing magical experiences, and I have the experience with them, and I just have so much joy that I can step into this work and share this with other people. And I just want to do more of that. I just want to, like, when you get to that sweet spot of knowing what your purpose is and being able to share that with people, I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else. You know what I mean? So very blessed to have this.
Yeah. Well, you and the horses are brilliant at it. You're just, oh, I have to take some time and just sit and write more about it. And I absolutely plan to, just because it's not that that's the other thing. It's like, it's not ending. I can see, like, even I just got back from Alaska. So I chair this board of a nonprofit, and just my centering and being able to step into this role of leader and being okay with it. Like, I've always struggled. Like, I feel like I can do it, but then it's like, oh, but maybe I'm going to offend. It's like, now it's like, we're at the cusp too of this organization of doing some really cool things that requires leadership. But the horses really, well, first that I even committed to driving my RV all the way, that was part of it. But I had like one of the best board meetings. I got so much positive feedback afterwards. We're so excited. The whole board is jazzed for all the stuff we're going to do. And that, I feel I owe a lot of that to you and the horses, because I really feel much more good. I feel solid. It's crazy. I know, it's like we are animal communicators. After almost every session, or in the middle of a session, I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. But it's, yeah, I just feel it's just amazing. So
Yeah. The compounding or the ripple effect of what you experience in just a short period of time with the horses, like, it continues on, and people will keep connecting in with the horses, or they remember that moment, and they can bring themselves, because everything we do is so body centered. They can actually drop back into that moment of what that felt like to be in their body at that moment. And then, you know, a year from now, they're in a board meeting, or, you know, an argument with a family member, and they can drop into that space and remember what that felt like. Pull the power from that, pull the energy from that. Okay, where am I in my body? What's that feel like? What emotions are coming up for me? How is my breathing? Like, what does this mean for me? Okay, now use that as information. How does that help me in this situation? And just dropping into that energy of being with the horses, and that memory is enough that you've changed something on a cellular level that you might not have even realized was, you know, blocked or stuck or whatever it is. But something moved when you were with the horses on a cellular level. You altered that. And so it has this, you know, ripple effect that will just keep going and going and show up in ways you don't even know. And a lot of people leave what they do here, and then they're like, all of this major stuff starts all of a sudden coming up, and then they have to come back. Then they want more coaching, because they're like, oh, but now this is showing up, so now what do I do with that? So then we do soul level intuitive coaching, you know, to help compound with that, to like bring that together. Like, okay, let's use this to build on your experience, you know. So it's kind of beautiful the way my journey has gone of learning the animal communication and the intuitive coaching, and then the equine experiential coaching, how that all just kind of like they build together to get to this place where they all work together so beautifully. In this whole package of being able to do all of this and provide that ongoing care and assistance to my clients after they leave here, because a lot of people travel far to get here, right? I mean, I have had people come from London and experience this, right? So they've come from a far away, and they leave, and then I don't want them to just feel like, okay, you're done, go out into the world and you're perfect now. It just doesn't work that way. Like, stuff comes up and then it continues to come up. So I want to continue to support them through that journey as they keep going forward in whatever way I can do that for them.
Yeah. And the horses they haven't let me forget either. Like, when I start to doubt, like the leadership thing, I actually see, like Hercules will pop in my head, and then I'll actually feel him, even though he didn't necessarily do this, but he'll like push me right between my shoulder blades. And then if I'm feeling just kind of down on myself or low, like Nikki has a maternal thing. And then I feel comforted. And Al is just for me, like, I love you no matter what. So it's interesting to me, like how they've each kind of appeared. Either I dream about them, or I'll be in a situation and like I just see their face, or I just hear, like I just not hear them, but like their name, something just reminds me. And like you were saying, there's no coincidences. This is all connected. And that's part of it too. You don't have to be an animal communicator to get that aspect of it. It's just fascinating. So, yeah. I do want to be mindful of time.
I know, I was thinking that because I don't think there's anything to cut out because it's all
I
really...
know.
Do you want to see us out, Julie, and then we
Well,
can chat?
Yeah. Are there any other comments or anything you want to? I hate to cut it off. It's just I don't want.
No, I know. I was the same. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I had most of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in the future, if we need a part 2, we can come back and
Yeah, we'd like that.
maybe after Kate comes out to do a
I was, you know what? I was just about to Google flights to where is it O'Hare?
you can come to O'Hare or Midway. They're both about the same distance from me. So
Yeah. I have a feeling a couple of us will pick you up and take you if Anna Marie can't make it. I'm sure she can, but yeah, just know that other people will be like, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, like, this conversation could go on for quite some time. So I don't want to.
Yeah, I just looked at the time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I thought we were talking for 10 minutes.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. So absolutely. We'll have lots and lots of things to talk about with Anna Marie. So I'm sure you will be back to join us another time. So is there anything else you want to add, Anna Marie, before?
No, just thank you for having me. You know, I could talk for days about if you get me talking about the horses. I mean, honestly, I'm also starting the Healed by a Chicken program, apparently, because
I was going to say, do you think other animals would work? They may not have big, but they have big ones.
The cats come into the session. The dog has to stay in the house because she doesn't play nice with other beings. But the cats come into the sessions all the time, especially like the energy healing sessions. The chickens are starting to come in more and more. I mean, the chickens they just crack me up. And originally it started as a joke that, you know, I'm going to start this Healed by Chicken program. And then it happened one day. I was like, oh, I've been healed by a chicken. Like, it actually happened. And then I had a client come, and one of the chickens was like actually doing something that was like part of the situation we were in. I was like, oh, I don't know if people would pay for Healed by a Chicken program, but it's happening.
I would.
It's like Healed by a Barn, Anna Marie.
Right. Yeah.
Or Healed by a Farm, whichever, it doesn't matter. But yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's true. The cat, that's right. Because the cats were totally, oh my gosh, it's the whole thing's fascinating. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Anna Marie, for all of the amazing work that you do. And thank you for joining us here today on Making Light Two Humans Being. I'm Julie Heert. With me, as always, is Kate Foggo. If you liked the show, please hit the like button. Please tell all your friends. Tell all your friends about the show, but also tell all your friends about Anna Marie's business, Healed by a Horse. We'll put all of her contact information in the show notes. Please subscribe to this channel as well so that others can find us. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. And if you have ideas or questions, put them below, or ideas for topics, I should say, or questions, please comment below. That also helps other people find us and Anna Marie. And we hope to see you next time here on Making Light Two Humans Being. Thank you.